Speaking with Gibberish, episode number 1, coming at you in 3, 2, 1. Hello, guys. This is Gabriel, about to speak some gibberish. Usually, these shows last about 20 minutes, maybe 10, depending on the topic. But today, we're going to go on and talk about Time's Person of the year 2020, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. Let's just go into detail and just get off the hook. This show is just basically my opinion, and with some backed up sources. But this topic in itself is going to be mostly opinionated by me, the head honcho of the show, leading it, being a cavalier. So, let's see what has happened in the last 8 months. Pandemic arises, things going downhill for the economic sake of the country, people losing businesses, people struggling, United States, the whole entire world just going straight down the gutter. Obviously, we haven't had a pandemic since 1940s, 1930s, and this is just a shock to everybody. Well, 1920s, the Spanish flu, my bad. But this is a shock to everybody. And let's see who has actually been doing stuff around here. Let's see what Joe Biden was doing eight months ago. He was running for president, losing a couple polls here and there. And let's see what Kamala Harris was doing. She was doing absolutely god horrendous in most of the polls, and she actually was one of the first candidates to drop out. And if I could, I'm going to try to play the Tulsi Gabbard speech in this video. But the one that she was basically called out for all the wrongdoing she has done in her political career. So let's try to make this about them two and why I strongly disagree with this whole entire ideology of them even being person of the year. Because let's just be honest here. What have they done? Other than run for politics, other than run for a seat in the White House, obviously, presidency, but in the big aspects of things, they haven't passed anything. And if anything, let's just look at something that has actually caused a great deal of damage to hundreds of lives, maybe even close to thousands in other parts of the country that actually Joe Biden could have kind of stopped. And let's talk about those violent protests and those violent riots that were going across the whole entire United States. Because look, he never disavowed any of the damage until recently, the last couple months, and during the start of all those things, he hasn't said jack nothing because he knew he would just be wildly contrary to a big, large part of his voting base. And let's be honest here. If anything he could have done was stop that, then I would be completely honest with you. I would say yes, he deserves this title and deserves even more. But no, he didn't. He didn't disavow. He didn't do anything. And worst of all, he actually encouraged it to agree by not saying anything. By saying these are the voice of the unheard of. Maybe that was Kamala, but I'm not sure. I'm just saying they both agreed to it. Because neither of them disavowed it. And even there's some interviews that I'll probably try to link that she has even encouraged these violent, quote-unquote, protests. Which is disturbing. Because these protests actually attack the people that should be the person's time of the year. And don't tell me this, that they haven't done group stuff for person of the year. Because they have. They've done scientists. They've done whistleblowers. They've done a whole entire thing about you or scientists, like I said earlier. And you know who it should have been? It should have actually been the business owner, the first responders, people that were in the front lines in the first 8 months, people that were literally doing their absolute best day in and day out to keep America's economy, America's people alive. First responders, without a doubt, had one of the hardest jobs this whole entire year throughout this whole entire pandemic. And they were out there. I don't care if you're a nurse. I don't care if you're an EMT. I don't care if you're a doctor. You deserve the biggest hoorah. And anyone that disagrees with me and says Joe Biden deserves that instead is absolutely crazy. Because my man was hiding in his basement for weeks on weeks end while these doctors, paramedics, and EMT workers were in the blood, in the struggle, going day in and day out. And let's just keep it 100 right here. I'm going to be honest. Small business workers have been one of the most important, struggling people throughout this whole entire pandemic with shutdowns, with their clients dying. They're going out there day in and day out, not for just them, because that's incredible. They're just fighting for themselves, but they're fighting out there for their kids, for their family, for their future, going in every single day. Pandemic, no pandemic, during the first 8 months, during the last 4 months, they were working hard. Harder than Joe Biden, harder than Kamala Harris have been, okay? Because let's be honest, running a campaign is hard. But you know what's harder? Risking your life day in and day out just to make sure you survive, not because of the pandemic, not because of the COVID, not because of the coronavirus or China virus, whatever you want to talk or mention about it, but to actually be able to help yourself and your family move forward and your community, because these people are paying taxes, are doing their best, because rent might have stopped. Hey, there might have been a little thing that said, oh, you don't have to pay rent for those months, but you have to pay that sooner or later if you're going to leave. So these people deserve more credit, in my gosh darn opinion, than a Joe Biden, than a Kamala Harris that haven't done anything. Don't get me wrong. Kamala Harris still has her position, but what has that done other than them denying people stimulus packages, not even agreeing to stimulus packages, or just being, oh, we're gonna give this, we're gonna give that after we get elected. These are just promises that honestly don't mean jack until after they get the position that they need to be in. When they get actually into office, they haven't done anything for the past 8 months compared to these doctors. Because look, these doctors have been stressed out. Mental health for doctors in general is at one of the most hardest jobs they can actually have, is them, because they gotta see death day in and day out compared to any other job out there. And I give them credit. And if you're going to tell me that Joe Biden has done anything significant other than have some couple press conferences speaking this hoorah about, oh, we should wear our masks, oh, we should. There's a lot of we shoulds, but there's not a lot of do's. And these people have been doing. These doctors, these small businesses have been doing things more than any other person job ever in the past couple months. And let's just keep it 100, like I said earlier. And as my rant continues, and so on and so forth, we have to understand that as somebody who has seen this thing start out in a kind of a major city next to New York City, and just struggling in the first couple of weeks of just trying to keep everything sane in the past 8 months or so, it is something you realize that without a community, a strong community, this nation as a whole will collapse. And the people fueling these communities are the small business workers, are the doctors. Because the doctors are caring for us, while the business workers are supplying us with goods, with paid taxes. And honestly, if we continue seeing these days and pandemics and lockdowns continue on, you'll see a large number of people in the streets and people broke. So we got to give credit for them just fighting day in and day out, like I've been saying, compared to Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, which they've been trying to win an election that they barely won, and are still elected and still debated. Not to get my little red hat in there, but we got to call it how it is. These people are politicians, and they haven't done anything or have had a major change in the past 8 months. And for Joe Biden, personally speaking, he hasn't done anything in the past 47 years. But let's just compare these apples to apples, right? Let's compare politicians to politicians. If you really want to say somebody is for up there in a person's time of the year, let's just say a man that actually created 4 peaceful agreements in the Middle East. Somebody who has been fighting for the vaccine to come out as soon as he started with Operation Warp Speed, and somebody who has actually been trying to give more stimulus to the people, and even gave people $1,200 check. Our President Donald J. Trump, let's speak that into it, because he's actually done something. And depending on how you see it, I'm not saying it because I support the man. I'm just saying it from somebody that actually has done something. We got to give it to him other than them too. And honestly, it's not even about that. But we just got to see somebody that's actually been trying to fight for the people and has been giving people money from the start, or trying to. Because you can even look at what he's done against China at the start of this whole pandemic. You might say he hasn't done anything, but he was the first one to actually cut flights from going directly to China and try to restrict flights in general. You could criticize that he could have done a better job, but you got to give credit where credit is due. And if you don't encourage somebody when they do something good, then you will just point out the things they do bad. You're going to end up doing something that's going to end up just not making that person care. But this man has been caring for the past 8 months and continues to do so. But even with such things being said, we have to admit with one thing. Neither politician deserves this award, especially in this year, especially with this time, especially with all the controversy going on. We have to give it to the people that have been there since day one, fighting an unknown enemy, and continue to do so until this very single day, still going, opening up their businesses, going to the workplace, going to the doctors, going to the hospitals, doctors' offices. Them too, small business owners and the medical field deserve much more than this slap in the face by the times. And I'll be honest with you, which I have been for the past couple minutes, if I had to choose somebody other than them, I'd rather choose nobody other than you and your family for struggling and surviving on your own, because the government hasn't done anything other than just shut down businesses around you, give you a little check that kind of helped, had a stimulus pack that barely kind of helped your neighbor downstairs in the bodega spot, if you know what I'm talking about. It's been a struggle. And if anything, you deserve a big pat on the back for doing what you've been doing. But honestly, this is the end of the podcast. I just need to really get this off my chest, because seeing somebody as Joe Biden or Kamala Harris get it really rubbed me the wrong way. And I would be still, even if you guys doubt me, I say this with 100% of my heart, that even if Donald Trump got it, I wouldn't have agreed with it either. Because it should go to us. Go to the families. Go to the people. Go to somebody that's actually been struggling. Going to somebody that's been losing their minds during these past 8 months and just trying to survive. And trying to survive in the medical field. And trying to survive for their families, their communities, and for their kids. Which I'm referring to small business owners. Thank you very much. This has been Speaking with Gibberish, episode number 1. Way to start it. And I'll see if it continues, boys. Give a like, comment, subscribe. And if you guys got any ideas, and if you made it this far, I appreciate it. And if you don't like it, leave a dislike. It's perfectly fine.